Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. And we have quite a few things to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get started and have Rao give the tech update.
So we have 09.25.1 running on the mainnet observer nodes and the exchange nodes, and we're in the process of updating the validator nodes on the mainnet also to 09.25.1. And I'll be putting out the release notes shortly. And everything else, the testnet is already running the 09.25.1 final version. Last week when we talked about this, we were running actually a pre-release or release candidate of 09.25.1, but we had a couple of PRs since then. And those are all in and tested, and we were adding some tests last time we spoke about this. So I'll just show you the list of the PRs. This is about a total of 22 PRs. The earliest ones, of course, we talked about as being the main content to improve the network using the constructs we put in for last finalized state. So this PR completes much of the last finalized state work. We still have some work left to do. That's part of the content. That's the content for 09.26. We had quite a few bug fixes in this release, all these here. And then we had improvements on gRPC because sometimes it hangs. So we got that fixed. Quite a bit of using LMDB sort of more extensively, but also in a much more modular fashion right now, so that there are not any locks that are not necessary. So we are trying to minimize the locks so that the network can proceed at a better pace. So those are some of the sort of the summary version of what's in those PRs. And the 09.26 will be the last finalized state completion, along with either some or partial, probably partial refactoring of the runtime manager. But in between, we will probably do a small release on 09.25.2 is what we're calling it right now. It's not tagged on any PRs at the moment yet. But what this is just because we're getting close to the end of the current epoch, and we're going to be unbonding the validators, and the current validators, and then bonding new validators. We wanted to just run through that process a couple of times, do tests or improve the number of tests on that, and make sure that everything is working fine. So that's one big part of that 09.25.2, and then the couple of security bugs that we want to take care of. Along with that, we ran, we looked into the dependencies, or we're looking to update the dependencies. This is the other libraries or the libraries that the code base is currently using. We're not necessarily going to address this 09.25.2, but we're reviewing it. Some of them are simple enough. Some of them may need a lot more analysis and even extensive testing to make sure that everything with the newer versions of the libraries is working as intended. So we're starting that work. We'll probably knock off whatever we can easily knock off. But we may take some time at some point, perhaps after 09.26 and the last finalized release is complete. We'll take some time to resolve the dependencies in a more substantive fashion. So that's kind of where we are with 09.25.2, which is the next, it's kind of targeted to be kind of early next week, and then the 09.26. And then I don't want to talk too much into the future at this point about what all we'll be doing, but that's, let's just stick with 0926. At least you understand what the plan is up to 0926. In terms of the continuous integration or the network environment, we have set up now additional number of validator nodes, and in the next epoch, the intention is to have up to 20 validator nodes. So that'll be a much larger number than now. And we have the new nodes that we will be needing for the next epoch set up on IBM, on the IBM network in IBM cloud in multiple regions. So that's still ongoing. We may have to add a few more nodes to that. In terms of tech governance, last week, we reviewed whatever issues we were not able to get to the previous week. We reviewed them, and we also updated the relative priority of those issues, at least a good number of them. And there are now some issues identified for kind of Greg to participate with the group, maybe tomorrow. As it turns out, many of the way back issues that they put in the RChip repository, meaning the development team at the time, put some 7 or so issues in there, and they all relate to network security. Kind of how many validators do you need per X number of blocks? How much stake do you need per X number of blocks? Things like that that were not resolved. So those all tie into, in general, the conversation about network security and the economics of the various participants in the network, and how they interact to either improve or hurt the security of the network and decentralization of the network. So we identified that as a potential set of things that we do need to address, and this is going to be much of the content of conversation with Greg in this tech governance session. But separately, we were also looking at there's a strategy working group that was working on what's, the items that needed to be put together from a strategy perspective. And so as a combination of all this effort, there is now an Excel model that tries to address the economics of sustainable network security and decentralization. It needs to be reviewed still internally, but we will be publishing some early version of that to the community, so that when people are talking about or making proposals, it's better to critique the model rather than, otherwise you come from individual data points rather than the interrelationship of those data points or decisions. So that's what the attempt with this Excel model is, to try and engender that conversation in the community to say, okay, what all is involved? How do they interact? What does a particular decision mean to network security and decentralization? What does the timing of that decision look like? How does that evolve over time as we get increased number of transactions and so on and so forth, or as the price of the rev changes, or those are all the kinds of things. Again, the initial model is not going to be complete, but that's why we may have a few different versions of it. But I think it's a better base for people to play with and start the conversation from, so that the conversations are not dogmatic, but are based in some model. And of course, hopefully that exploration and the critique would improve that model. So that's what we're hoping for. that's, I think, mostly what I have to say. I think Daryl is going to pick up the other community activity and progress that's going on. So with what I said so far, are there any questions or comments? All right, over to you, Greg.
Thanks. That was great. I mean, it's so encouraging to see all the progress and the stabilization of the network. Everything. This is really good. All right. We do have a guest on, and so before we turn things over for the community and review section with Daryl, I wanted to invite Jeff Flowers to introduce himself and tell us what's going on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that intro. My name is Jeff Flowers. I'm one of the co-organizers for Silicon Valley Ethereum Meetup. We also have, of course, we love interesting projects and technologies, and I think we all agree that RChain certainly qualifies in that regard. And so I have the great pleasure of introducing a meetup that will include Greg, and I have the pleasure of introducing him, but I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm like the last person in the chain that got this, forward to the community. And I'd like to thank Lila and Greg for working so much to make this happen. And so I will also want to share with you the meetup. This has been waiting to announce for this community meetup. So everyone here will be the first to know of this. I'm at meetup right now. Let me go to the meetup page. Oops. And let me announce this. And so I'm going to share the link in the chat. Let me share that with you right now. So right now, this is the first ever announcement of this meetup. It was just pushed out to the our community of around 4,000 plus members, and later to other communities. And hopefully everyone here can attend and also share with the communities that you know of. Are there any questions or anything I could answer? Again, I really want to thank both Lila and Greg for making this possible.
Thank you. It's really our pleasure. By the way, it's Lilia, but
oh, Lilia, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, no worries. It's good. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for putting this together. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this. How long has the meetup been running?
This meetup has been running. It was actually a smart contract meetup. So this was before Ethereum, and so we focused on smart contracts in a theoretical fashion, and then Codius, which was one of the first smart language programming languages that came out of Ripple Labs at the time. So it's been running for, I want to say 7 years.
Wow.
Or so.
Wow, that's great. That's really quite cool. Very good.
So,
and then the membership is roughly?
We have over 4,000 presently.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, we'll be sure to mention to your folks, since you say that you started off as a smart contracting meetup, we'll be sure to mention that we're having a hackathon in October 10th and 11th. And the primary focus is on-chain governance, but we're super happy to look at other problem statements. And we're working with a group that has a reach of about 1,200 universities in India. So if your community wants to connect to a larger community, that would be one way to do it.
This is wonderful. Also, I'll be honest, most of our founders, or not founders, our organizers, we also founded a California nonprofit called the Decentralization Foundation. So if you go to d24n.org, or you could type decentralizationfoundation.org, you can reach us there too. And we're always looking to promote and advance decentralization technology. So it was really quite heartwarming to hear the previous speaker talking about the need for decentralization and the Excel model, and these kinds of thoughts are very critical, I think, moving forward in this space.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think you're like, if we mention a little bit about RChat, you guys might get really excited, because we're able to take off the shelf things like Zulip, and with a little bit of work. So Zulip is like the open source Slack, right? And with just a little bit of work, we can turn it into a decentralized version of it with on-chain chat data. Yeah, so I'm getting very excited about this. This is really cool.
Well, again, I want to thank everyone here, and then I'll mute myself.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Daryl, are you ready to do the community in review?
Sure. Okay, so yeah, Jeff, thanks so much. That's really cool. Exciting to hear about this, and I can't wait to attend on the 28th. Okay, so this is the week in review for Thursday, the 30th of July to the 5th of August. So last Thursday on the governance committee call, the committee provided an update on the newly created strategy improvement working group. The committee discussed the banking industry and the importance of establishing an RChain monetary policy. And the committee discussed differences among various forms of cooperatives, such as consumer, worker, and stakeholder. Also on Thursday was the DApp developer working group, where they helped each other with issues, making DAppy pages. On Friday, the Climate and Coordination RCast, we discussed a climate lawsuit against the Australian government, the UN announcing that the climate crisis is a threat to world peace, and Costa Rica's massive rainforest rehabilitation effort. We also talked about peak oil demand in 2020, leading to the fourth industrial revolution, and the US hearings last week on the anti-competitive practices of the big four tech monopolies and the increasing need for decentralized solutions. On Monday, the Casper stand-up call had some fun talking about the interpretation of quantum mechanics in row calculus. And you can always check out the Casper stand-ups by searching Casper stand-up on YouTube. On Tuesday, the RChain education session, Simple Rolang, will get continuations as a second parameter to receive. This will introduce the recursion on the evaluator. We discussed the semantics of the set and how equality can be implemented with ordering of elements. Also, yesterday, in the communications working group call, we discussed the Wren multi-chain project and how we could potentially get RChain connected up. We also discussed member engagement in voting and how there are open slots for board positions. And we also talked about the hackathon plans, working with Code Tantra, potential for new enthusiasm in charging up RChain's presence in the large pool of developers in India. And Steve Henley proposed an ongoing agenda item to better connect the communications working group with the strategic plan. Also on Tuesday in the DApp developer working group call, they reviewed liquid democracy contracts and Zulip Chat VoteBot. They attempted a Zulip Chat build with MetaMask login and realized that they need help configuring the Django MetaMask plugin. And then today on the members hangout, discussion started around the logistics of designing and utilizing a hardware chip for RChain, and then moved to a discussion around staking. And that brings us to the present.
Very good. Any questions for Daryl? All right, excellent. So I just want to put some reminders out there. So while we do have double digits in rev addresses registered, and we've sent out the vast majority of the incentives and confirmed that they are actually at the addresses. We still don't have all the rev addresses for folks to vote in the AGM in October, at the end of October. So please, please, please get your rev addresses out, or get your rev addresses to the co-op so that you can be part of the voting process for the cooperative at the annual general meeting. It's really, really important. Also, since the annual general meeting is coming up faster than we think, if you have any items of business that you would like to submit to the co-op, now would be the time. Please, 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 if anything that you'd like the co-op to consider as an item of business, it is time to begin submitting those to the cooperative. Finally, if you are thinking about running for a board seat, now would be the time to start coordinating that. We typically want to organize interviews with potential candidates with the existing board members. So if you want to throw your hat in the ring, I strongly encourage it. This year we've had a really great board, very, very active. And I think it would be, it would be a very rewarding experience for anyone who wants to join the board. So please consider that. Any questions about any of those topics?
I'd just like to mention, if anyone needs help generating a Rev address for voting, you can go to blog.rchain.coop, and there's a few blog entries there that can help you with that process.
Absolutely. Yep. So as Jeff mentioned, at the end of the month, we'll be speaking with his meetup. Tomorrow, Mike Stay and Christian Williams and I will be presenting at Protocol Labs. This was a follow-up talk that we got invited to after Christian gave his talk on the work that we've been doing on type systems to MIT. So the MIT category theory group invited Christian to give a talk. And as a result of that talk, the folks at Protocol Labs saw that and invited us to give a talk at Protocol Labs. So I'll be speaking about the role of types in refactoring the internet. And Christian which will basically set up Christian's talk to talk about some of the mathematical details that go into this work. Any questions about that?
Would this be recorded anywhere?
Possibly, quite likely, yes. So there's an early version of the role of types in refactoring the internet that I gave as a Casper stand-up. So you can look at that. Yeah, the last two Casper stand-ups have been a lot of fun. I hardly recommend those people who are interested in diving a little deeper to go check those out. I did find a couple of typos in the quantum mechanics thing. I'll be updating that, but by and large, the math checks out. Still, there's long way to go, but by and large, the math checks out. So a lot of fun in that regard. Let's see, Ian, Rao, Daryl, anything I'm missing in terms of material we need to cover in today's debrief?
Maybe bring people's attention to the staking channel on the co-op Discord.
Yes, that's right. So it's looking like we'll probably have the new bonding period either Monday or just after. So by Friday, if you want to stake, that's your deadline. So midnight or 11:59 Pacific Daylight Time on Friday is the last we'll be accepting staking submissions. So please get those in. I think the email is staking@rchain.coop, if memory serves. So
Yes.
yep. So please, if you want to commit to staking, now would be the time. Let's see. Anything else? Any other questions or comments from the community on today's call? Going once?
Oh, I have a question. What was that I actually do have Rev. I've got my Rev address. What was that email address for staking again? There it is. Never mind.
I just posted.
That's a great question. I appreciate you bringing folks' attention to it again. Okay. Going twice. All right. Silence is golden. Really appreciate the chance to chat with everyone. And I hope everyone stays safe. There will be some conversations that we'll be having on the Friday closed door session to update folks on those matters. So looking forward to seeing some of you then. but otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy. Talk to you soon.